Do you want to know the truth about Fanatec and why today, shockingly, Thomas Jackermeier has been dismissed as the CEO? Because I know more about this than anyone else on the internet, but it's going to be hard for you to digest because we're going to go really specific. And I actually knew this was going to happen because I've been reading the financial statements, because I've been to Fanatec and I've interviewed Thomas Jackermeier. I know more about this than actually anyone else on the internet. I'm not trying to boast about that, but just trying to let you know that if you watch this video, you are going to understand exactly what's going on at Fanatec. And I want to do a disclaimer here. I actually have orders out with Fanatec. I have over £1,000 out with Fanatec at the moment. So I am a customer like you. I'm not an influencer just who's been shilling Fanatec product throughout all of this. So how did I know this was going to happen? And what does it mean for Fanatec? And what is Thomas Jackermeier actually like? I'm going to let you know. Let's start with how I knew this was going to happen. When I went to Germany and flew to Fanatec and interviewed Thomas Jackermeier, and like I said, I'm going to let you know all the behind the scenes of that, what Thomas Jackermeier is actually like. I did an awful lot of research reading financial statements. I read the Financial Times anyway. I love reading investor statements, and I read all of Fanatec's. And strictly, it's not actually Fanatec's, it's a company called Endor AG. So if you're watching this video and you don't really know what Endor AG is, then you're going to find this super helpful. So let's get into it. In 2023, Fanatec had pretty extraordinary financial issues, and it stemmed from a lot of different reasons. We had the Black Friday issues, and then we had them not actually delivering the product, and we actually had an impact on sales, and that is all reported. Fanatec or Endor AG need to report actually to the financial markets on any difficulties they're having, and you can read this for free. They predicted that in 2023 they are going to have pretty much negative growth, or the EBITDA is going to be in double-digit negative, which is really bad for a company. This was also caused by the licensing issues they had with PlayStation, and they actually had some faulty chips, or there was a big chip issue with Fanatec that wasn't spoken about publicly, and meant they actually had to write it off. Because of this, Fanatec committed to making big process changes, and when you saw my interview with Thomas Jackermeier, we talked a lot about that in terms of bringing the new customer service, outsourcing online, etc. The main thing Fanatec did at that time was renegotiating their bank financing. So if you don't know how companies work, companies will often have financing from a bank that enables them to have credit and to go out and continue to operate and invest and pay salaries, etc. Fanatec were in so much trouble that they needed to renegotiate their credit line. When did they renegotiate it to? Well, as I read this on the 30th of January, the credit line was renegotiated until March 31st, 2024. So I knew at that time that if things were not going to improve at Fanatec, they were likely to hit this issue around the Easter weekend. And I actually prepared making a video for this time to see what was going to happen. You're not going to get this information anywhere else, by the way, because on the internet, people just don't normally care about this level of detail and the truth. They just want to watch thumbnails or titles and say, oh, I don't want to believe that. But you watching this video, you are getting the inside truth here. So let's move on to Thomas Jackermeier. He has been dismissed. What does this mean? Why has this happened? Well, almost certainly, as a term of the banks extending their credit to Fanatec, they will have said, look, if you don't turn this around, we want to see a change of management. And clearly what has happened is Fanatec have not been able to turn this around, and therefore contractually, Thomas Jackermeier has had to be dismissed. Now, I see a lot of hate for Thomas Jackermeier and generally Fanatec on the internet. I see a lot of people saying that my interview with Fanatec was a sort of hit piece and it was designed to take Fanatec down. Both of those I don't think are true. Well, I can tell you from my perspective, I want Fanatec to be successful. I want there to be a lot of competition in the sim racing space. I don't want Fanatec to go bankrupt. It would be a disaster for sim racing. And Thomas Jackermeier, and I can tell you this with personal insight, when I interviewed Thomas Jackermeier, in fact, when I met him before I interviewed him, he is a very passionate character that has built this Fanatec company basically from the ground. And the issues he's having is actually scaling his company to be a truly global company that can supply the amount of orders that it's receiving. What he's not failing with is understanding sim racing or having that passion for sim racing. So I think it is a sad moment that he has been dismissed, because he will be replaced with people that might be very talented, might be very capable from a business perspective, but no one can ever say that they are more passionate about sim racing than Thomas Jackermeier, who has built this company. And my interview with Thomas Jackermeier was interesting because you can see at times his bubbly personality coming out in the interview, but undeniably, for a lot of times, he doesn't seem to have that incredible energy. And I don't know whether this is because so much stuff was weighing on him, if he's just come out of a board meeting or he's just come out of a meeting with the banks. But this is clearly a man who's very, very, very passionate, but there was something constraining about the situation that he was in. Now, we'll get on to whether Fanatec is in massive, massive trouble and whether you should be worried if, like me, you have orders out with Fanatec. But firstly, I want to say, everyone who's hating on Thomas Jackermeier, they probably don't understand that he is still a controlling shareholder of Fanatec. And if you look at the public documents, you can see a company called Bamboo Invest UG owning about 40% of the stock in Endor, so basically Fanatec. And if you look at further documents online, you'll see that the person who controls that, the person closely associated with that, is Thomas Jackermeier. So basically, Thomas Jackermeier, through his personal investing company, is the controlling shareholder of Fanatec. So if for some reason you're a Thomas Jackermeier hater, and actually I don't think you are if you're watching this video, but there's plenty of people online, he is still a massive part of Fanatec, and he is going to be making money from Fanatec. So every time everyone makes a sale, ultimately he owns the profits that come out of it, albeit the company is not really profitable right now. So what does this mean for Fanatec more widely? Well, they're going to replace Thomas Jackermeier as CEO. There's a few different candidates, people that I've personally met, so I can give you a personal opinion on that. But I do think from a very sort of base perspective, when you have a guy who has built a company over 25 years, there is inevitably going to be a sort of family feeling around that company. People don't understand, I think, how much of an underdog Fanatec actually is. It's not some massive conglomerate. It's actually just people sort of very passionate, working in, small rooms, creating amazing products, and the issues have come with scaling and actually delivering the product and manufacturing them. These people, I feel like, are probably there because of Thomas. So the fact Thomas has been dismissed, that is something that really does worry me, because if you're there because of Thomas and Thomas has gone as CEO, even though behind the scenes he's still a controlling shareholder, I just wonder how much this affects the balance of the company. And it's something I talked about specifically in my interview. So if you watched my interview, you would have known about this, because I said to Thomas, I said, do you worry that it is a scaling of this company that is going to be so difficult, and maybe that's where you don't have the experience? So the banks obviously know this, because the banks want to make lots and lots of money. The banks don't care who's running Fanatec. They just look at their spreadsheets at the end of every quarter, and they think that in order to scale the company, Thomas Jackermeier is not the right person to do it. So theoretically, if the banks are right, someone will come in now and someone will be able to manage the customer service and the supply and everything better than Thomas. I don't know whether that's possible though. Even when I was interviewing Thomas, we were talking about different things that could affect the supply issues, and then we had the Suez Canal issue that has caused massive supply disruption for loads of businesses. And by the way, I know if you're watching this video, my subscribers, my viewers, are some of the most switched on, intelligent people in sim racing. A lot of you are running business, or you know all about business. So this is not news to you. It's people that, on the forums, they don't really understand this stuff. But the banks are going to think this is going to make a big change. And I'm not sure whether that's going to be the case. Obviously, I will try and interview the new CEO of Fanatec for you and ask you a question. So any questions you've got for Fanatec, please put them in the comments. Thomas Jackermeier often responding to comments in our video, so this is a way to contact them. And by the way, throughout all of this, I've been exclusively emailing everyone on our newsletter. So if you've been missing out on that information, don't miss out any longer. Sign up at www.simracenews.com and make sure you watch these other 2 Fanatec videos so you are fully informed.